Hello everyone. Today I'll be discussing the historical development and theories of social responsibility. But before that, let me first explain what is social responsibility.
It is a management concept whereby companies integrate social and environmental concerns in their business operations and interaction with their stakeholders. So now let's proceed to the historical development or milestones of social responsibility. So the first milestone for CSR or corporate social responsibility was introduced by Howard R. Bowen through his book named Social Responsibilities of the Businessman that was originally published in 1953.
He was an American economist and college president, serving as the president of Grinnell College from 1955 to 1964, and as the 14th president of the University of Iowa from 1964 to 1969. Bowen's Social Responsibilities of the Businessman was the first comprehensive discussion of business ethics and social responsibility.
Bowen believed that the great power and actions of large corporations had a tangible impact on society, and as such, there was a need for changing the decisions making to include considerations of their impact.
This book is considered as a foundation for the CSR concept, or the corporate social responsibility, since it represents the first notable academic approach that changed the attitude perspective of corporate behavior. Before Bowen published his book, there were a lot in determining the specific academic concept that represents the social and environmental responsibilities of corporations. The relevance of Bowen's approach relies on the fact that this was the first academic work focused specifically on the doctrine of social responsibility, making Bowen the father of corporate social responsibility. Bowen was the first who defined CSR, or the corporate social responsibility, as the obligation of businessmen to pursue those policies, to make those decisions, or to follow those lines of action which are desirable in terms of the objectives and values of our society. After Bowen published his book, the academic approaches concerning the social context of the CSR concept were explored and extended, while their practical implementation remained mostly in a philanthropic frame. There were only some public postures implied that natural resources and human resources should be used to broad social ends and not only for interest of firms and corporations.
The second notable milestone that shaped the CSR context was the Committee for Economic Development that responded to the social expectation by its declaration on corporate social responsibility in 1971.
Commission for Economic Development marked a fundamental milestone in transformation of CSR from a secondary concept into a basic concept. The high frequency of social protest in that decade led to an academic quest in order to transform the concept of CSR from a voluntary concept into a mandatory legislative concept. CED, or the Commission for Economic Development, explicitly referred to the concept of social contract, attributing to the CSR as an obligatory rather than a voluntary notion.
Businesses were expected to undertake actions in 10 major fields. First, economic growth and efficiency education, employment and tracing, civil rights and equality opportunity, urban renewal and development, pollution abatement, conservation and recreation, culture and medical care, and lastly, government relation.
It became clear that the second milestone, the creation of CED, the international community has begun to pay more attention to corporate behavior and the consequences of its actions, which had negatively affected environment and society. For scholars in the field of business ethics, they have further clarified the concept of CSR, and they have considered corporate social performance, corporate social responsiveness, and relation with stakeholders as main parts of a broader discussion of CSR in the decade.
Well, there are three concentric circles of corporate social responsibility based on the Commission for economic development. It was Seti who describes this concept based on a three-stage schema. First is the social obligation. It is defined as the adaptation of corporate behavior to market forces and legislation. The only criterion for corporate behavior here is legal constraints. However, it may be that the legal criterion is not sufficient.
Social obligation. Dowling and Palster suggest that there are three reasons to why legal criteria are not sufficient. First, due to the dynamic of social norms, the legal change is often delayed because of its formal nature. Second, social values may conflict with each other, while laws are assumed to be consistent. Third, during a transitional period, certain activities might be hardly tolerated by the social system, while the law confers the social acceptance on the legal code. Thus, legal criteria are necessary but not sufficient to address this concept. Obligations are social expectations which include duties or defined as commitment, being legally or morally bound to do something. They are also a matter of reciprocity. In business, balancing ecosystems and economies is a social obligation. By taking care to not harm the environment in which a company operates, they also take care of their employees, stakeholders, and communities.
The second is the social responsibility. So, in order for a business to be socially responsible, it must perform at a level congruent with the dominant social norms and expectations.
Social responsibility. Compared to social obligation, social responsibilities are just more proactive. Corporations adapt behavior before it becomes legally required. Social responsibilities in general are short-term adaptations. Social responsibility can be said to be the obligation on the part of business enterprises to protect and promote society's welfare. The activities of businesses should be organized in such a way that society is benefited and not affected.
Lastly, social responsiveness. It involves long-term adaptation. The idea of social responsiveness is not about how the corporation should adapt to current social norms, but about the long-term role business should play in the social system.
Social responsiveness. It is a person's obligations to contribute to their community or country in a way that makes the quality of life and environment better for them or for those around them. Therefore, social responsiveness happens as a result of someone being socially responsible. Similarly, the active ways of social responsibility can be identified as social responsiveness as well.
So, the third milestone for corporate social responsibility is the hierarchical conceptual model by R.G.B. Carroll. It is considered as one of the most important contributions for CSR since it covered the new social and legal aspects at that time in the implementation processes of social responsibility.
In this model, Carroll argued that the social responsibilities of business should include four dimensions: economic, legal, ethical, or philanthropic. Carroll's model made CSR theory more applicable since he proposed a way for assisting firms in the implementation of CSR practices. This scholar suggested that firms should be first define their social responsibilities, identify the CSR aspects, and then decide whether to respond proactively or reactively. Archie Carroll represented these four parts of CSR concept into a hierarchical pyramid, named as the Pyramid of Corporate Social Responsibility.
As you can see, there is a pyramid. Well, it is called the Carroll's CSR pyramid. In this model, Carroll argued that the social responsibilities of a business should include four dimensions. First, in the lower part of the pyramid, is called economic responsibilities.
Economic responsibility is the foundation of Carol's corporate social responsibility. This is because the only way for a business to survive and support society in the long term is by being profitable. Without profit, companies cannot pay their workers, give stakeholders as return their investments, or produce quality products and services.
The second upper part of the pyramid is the legal responsibilities.
Legal responsibility refers to a company's legal obligation to adhere to all relevant laws and regulations. This includes compliance with employment laws, tax regulation, employee health and safety obligations, and laws regulating anti-competitive conduct. It's all about operating in a way that promotes fair business practices on a national, regional, and local level.
The third upper part is the ethical responsibilities.
Ethical responsibility is about doing the right thing, being fair, and avoiding harm. Unlike the first two layers of Carol's CSR pyramid, which are all about legal and shareholder obligations, this layer is more concerned with morals and ethics. Examples of ethical responsibility includes being environmentally friendly, treating employees and suppliers in line with an ethical code of conduct, and embracing activities and standards that go beyond legal compliance. Ethical responsibility is all about recognizing and respecting evolving moral standards and performing in a way that meets society's expectations. Ultimately, it's about consistently demonstrating your business integrity and conducting your operations in an ethical way.
And lastly, on the top of the pyramid is the philanthropic responsibilities.
Philanthropic responsibility is all about giving back to the community, exceeding the expectations of shareholders and stakeholders, and going extra mile to make the world a better place. It goes beyond doing what's right. It's about standing by your values and principles as a company and giving back something of value to society. This might be in a form of donations, volunteer work, or community development, among other philanthropic initiatives.
The fourth milestone is the World Commission on Environment and Development, organized by the United Nations in 1987, or what is called as the Brundtland Commission, due to the Commission's chairwoman, Gro Harlem Brundtland.
The Commission created the first global agenda for change. It stated the critical global environmental problems were primarily the result of the enormous poverty of South and non-sustainable patterns of consumption and production in the North. It was the first commission which called for a global strategical sustainability that united development and environmental concerns.
Sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs.
The commission was in urgent call by the General Assembly of the United Nations, which aimed to propose long-term environmental strategies for achieving sustainable development by the year 2000 and beyond.
The fifth milestone is the Corporate Social Performance Model by Duna Wood that was created in 1991. But in the CSR Historical Review, this is considered as the third milestone, since it is the first time where scholar academically identifies the principles, processes, and outcomes of CSR into a unique form.
Donna Wood is an academic researcher for the University of Northern Iowa. Prior to the CSP model, corporate social responsibility faced many definitions, and it was difficult for a company to define systematic action for implementing its social responsibilities and for reviewing its impact on the society and environment. While after corporate social performance model, the concept was more organized and prompted many scientists to create new frameworks and dimensions for CSR as the stakeholder theory, people bottom line theory, reputational dimension, and competitive dimensions.
The sixth milestone is the UN Global Compact that was launched in July 2000 by the United Nations at the headquarters in New York City. It is both a policy platform and a practical framework for companies that are committed to sustainability and responsible business practices.
Never before in history there has been a greater alignment between the objectives of the international community and those of the business world, where it has been considered as the important milestone in the development journey of CSR.
The UN Global Compact is a principle-based framework for businesses, stating 10 principles in the areas of human rights, labor, environment, and anti-corruption.
Under the Global Compact, companies are brought together with the UN agencies, labor groups, and civil society. The UN Global Compact is not a regulatory tool. It is a distinctive voluntary initiative by the international community that focuses on specific social responsible steps for corporations. It is noteworthy that for the first time, the international community touches the importance of the business sector in fighting corruption and labor rights.
The next milestone is the creating shared value concept as further extend to CSR concept. The concept of creating shared value was developed by Potter and Karmer in 2006. This concept represents the seventh milestone in the evolution of the CSR, since for the first time, an academic approach suggests CSR concept as a strategic process of a company and not only as an elementary process.
Potter and Kramer were the first scholars who categorized the drivers of CSR, a link with social responsibilities with growth of market shares, organizational learning, commitment and engagement of various stakeholders, and leadership concept.
The creating shared value was further explained by Potter and Karmer in 2011. They mentioned that policies and operating practices should enhance the competitiveness of a company while simultaneously advancing the economic and social conditions of the communities in which it operates.
Shared value creation focuses on identifying and expanding the connections between societal and economic progress. The call for a change in the business strategies, and this change should focus on creating shared value as the main objective. Moreover, they considered the term CSR is outdated, a limited concept, and should be replaced by the creating shared value. They claim that the purpose of the corporation must be redefined as creating shared value, and the first step to do is to identification of the societal needs as well as the benefits or harms that the business embodies through its products. Accordingly, Potter and Kramer established three ways for creating shared value: by conceiving products and markets, by redefining productivity in the value chain, and creating supportive industrial clusters where the company operates. For Potter and Kramer, strategic CSR helps company to achieve a competitive advantage that results in the creation of shared value.
The eighth milestone is the International Organization for Standardization launched the International Standards and Guidelines for CSR. The International Organization for Standardization published the new standards ISO 26000 in 2010 to provide guidance on how business and organizations can operate in a socially responsible way. This means acting in an ethical and transparent way that contributes to the health and welfare of society.
ASU helps businesses and organizations to transfer principles into effective actions and shares best practices relating to social responsibility. Unfortunately, ASU guidelines are not aimed at all types of organizations, regardless their activity, size, or location, and still not obligated.
Now, let's proceed to the theories of social responsibility. There are four theories. These are maximizing profits, moral minimum, stakeholder interest, and corporate citizenship. So let me first define what is maximizing profits. It is a theory of social responsibility that says a corporation has a duty to take actions that maximize profits for shareholders. The interests of other stakeholders are not important.
Profit maximization seeks to find new methods to increase net revenue for a business, often without relying on the increased demand or changing sales price, although these are viable strategies. One of the most popular methods to maximize profit is to reduce the cost of goods sold while maintaining the same sales price. For example, find cheaper raw materials that those currently use, or find a supplier that offers better rates for inventory purchases. Find product sources with lower shipping fees. Ina mo, ayaw na to, hindi ko na to ngayon. So, in my own understanding, kuan itong mga mamimiling kaway para mag-increase ang usang business. Asyan karong signon sa profit maximization. Like, nano ang maupay nga way para ma-maintain mo sa maupay ang imo business. Like, for example, ang bugas, yung papalit nera sa mga magsasaka sa mas cheaper nga price. Then, nagbabalik yan nera ito sa mga tao nga makakaya lalat nera paliton. That's na akong pagkaabasan, profit maximization.
Next is the moral minimum. It is a theory of social responsibility that says a corporation's duty is to make a profit while avoiding harm to others. As long as business avoids or corrects the social injury, it has met its duty of social responsibility. For example, occupational safety laws and consumer protection laws for product safety.
Ang moral minimum naman is responsible sila kumita pero in a way na wala sila masasakitan or dili sila makakapinsala sa iba na tao. Kasi sa moral minimum dapat ang mga businesses na sunod sa batas ang pagkakamiada ethical behavior. And as long as ang company na iwasan ng paghimo mga kamalian or mga makapapahamak sa iba, mga harm na posibleng makahatag negatibo na epekto, meaning sana na himo nila responsibility sa community. For example, sa trabaho, aada sa batas ang dapat magkamiada safety ang mga empleyado to ensure na era kaligtasan na maprotektahan sila from danger. And if a business were to cause harm to others, to people, to animals, or to environment and at large in the course of their operations, businesses would lead the way, ensuring those affected were made whole and that further damage was prevented.
Stakeholder interest. It is a theory of social responsibility that says a corporation must consider the interests of all stakeholders, including stakeholders, employees, consumers, suppliers, creditors, and local community. This theory was criticized because it is difficult to harmonize the conflicting interests of stakeholders.
Stakeholder theory is a concept that emphasizes the interrelationship between a businesses and its various stakeholders. Kundi di real business or stakeholders ang inggagaan value sa corporation, kundi pati stakeholders because may dasarasan ng responsibility na dapat involve ang stakeholders sa mga decision-making process para makakuha sila support to sustain the business.
Corporate citizenship. It is a theory of responsibility that says a business has a responsibility to do good and helping to solve social problems. A major criticism of this theory is that the duty of a corporation is to do good and cannot be extended outside certain limits.
Corporate citizenship refers to a company's responsibilities toward society, The goal is to produce higher standards of living and quality of life for the communities that surrounds them and still maintain profitability for stakeholders. Meaning, may the responsibility ang company dili lang kumita sira, kundi to contribute help to people to improve their way of life. Growing businesses and creating jobs increases revenue. Kapag may business, may trabaho. Mauton an opportunity na makukuha sa tao nga ada sa surrounding. And that way, nabubuligan nila ang community na mapaupay ang nila life. Kasi kay kung may kita ka, di kang simo trabaho, may da ka panggagasos sa mga panihinglanan mo or sa imo pamilya. And also, mahatasan kita sa usa nga business kapag may nagtatrabaho para sa ira. Dun sanaan, gisisiring naton nga corporate citizenship. For example, sa usa na business, kuyari, magtihan. Kung nagtukod ka magtihan sa iba na lugar, there are more chances na makakakuan ka dako nakita unlike sa usa na mo branch. Kuyari, didili sa Calbayon. Like, pwede ka man magtinduglat sa ibang nga lugar, lain that nga branch para mas dako imo kita. So, asya ton an corporate citizenship.
So this is the last slide of this PowerPoint, which is the summary of theories of social responsibility. And that would be all. Thank you.